How's it going, guys, and welcome to Four-Mile Ranch. Now today I'm pretty excited to be going over what I would probably go ahead and say is the best thermal optic that you likely have not yet heard of. Now that is going to be the Guide Sensmart TU651 LRF. Now why do I say you probably haven't heard of it? Well, maybe I'm assuming things here, but I personally had not heard of Guide Sensmart prior to them sending me an email to see if I'd be willing to test out one of their scopes. So I looked into Guide Sensmart. It seems like they have a track record for thermal technology in general, and now they're branching into some hunting and potentially law enforcement and similar applications, right? So what we have before us is the TU651, what is the TU651? It is gonna be a 640 core thermal optic, and it has performed phenomenally, especially considering it was not on my radar whatsoever. So before we get any further in the video, I do want to disclose my relationship with Guide Sensmart for transparency purposes, and fortunately there really isn't a relationship other than them sending me the email and then sending me the scope to conduct the review that I'm now going to share with you guys. So no other money or anything was exchanged. These are going to be my unbiased, unfiltered opinions, and you guys are seeing it at the same time that they are going to see the video. Now, before we move on any further, I do got to give a huge shout out to the current channel sponsors. Without them, content like this just simply would not be possible. Now, first is Warhammer Armaments. Warhammer Armaments is an actual godsend when it comes to anything and everything night vision. They can track it down for you, and they can build you absolute unicorn spec devices. I speak from experience because I got a nice screaming hot set of 2700 plus FOM MH1s that I am just starting to put through its paces. Check out Warhammer Armaments. They are in my link tree. Now, also in my link tree is going to be Optics Planet, where you can save 7% with code 4MRR. Now, Optics Planet is also a new supporter of the channel, so big thanks to them for making future content possible as well. Okay, so a lot to cover here when it comes to thermal optics. If you are on the fence about making the dive, making what I would consider to be a pretty hefty investment at times when it comes to thermal optics, there's a lot of information that you may want to know. But if you're also like me and you have severe ADD, maybe you want to skip around to what you're most curious about. So check the description below. This video is going to be segmented for your convenience so you can get to what you're interested in, but we're going to cover a lot here in my typical thermal scope review fashion. I'm going to go through a brief unboxing, show you what comes with this guy, give you a brief orientation of the actual controls of this unit, how you operate it, so it kind of makes sense when you see the things that I'm doing. We'll go through the menu, all that good stuff, and of course, plenty of sample footage. So I'm going to kind of change things up. I'm going to briefly speak to you about my overall impressions and thoughts and things that I've noticed on the scope, starting from front to rear on this optic. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details for those that want to learn more about it, because I kind of saved that for the end, and by then I may have lost many of you. So I just want to talk about my initial thoughts and impressions on this optic. So first time looking through it, I was actually very pleasantly surprised. The image looked very, very good. It is a 640 core thermal sensor, but it is a 12 micron pixel density. So it's meeting the new gold standard for thermal scopes, because not all sensors are made the same. A 640 core could be a 12 micron, meaning bigger pixels. It's going to be less sharp when you're looking through it, right? Of course, the actual display on board is a part of that as well. This thing doesn't leave anything to be desired there. So when you look through this for the first time, it's very, very pleasing. The image looks very good. In fact, they boast that there's an onboard algorithm that helps highlight things, make things look better, of what the scope thinks is actually of importance. Now, I have been using this for 90 days, and I point that out because 90 days ago it was still triple digits here in Texas, where I've been testing this out. And that is where thermal optics do the worst. When the ambient environment is just as hot as living things, then typically it all kind of washes out. You lose a lot of contrast, but that wasn't really the case on this optic. I could see things very, very well and without difficulty. This optic, honestly, like I said, it's been very impressive. I have nothing to complain about on this optic. So there's not a lot of bad things to talk about, but we will get into some of the details of why I've been so pleased with this as I progress with this video. So kind of working our way back, I do want to point out that there is a laser rangefinder. That's what the LRF in the name is, and that's what this hump is on top. It's activated by a button in the back. It's easy enough to find when you're in the pitch black of the night when you're hunting. Why are laser rangefinders important when it comes to digital optics? Well, the last weekend and then the one prior to last weekend, both of those were spent behind this optic, but taking some novice hunters that hadn't really spent a lot of time behind thermal optics, and I cannot tell you how many times they thought rabbits were hogs at a distance. And I pointed out to them, hey, you have a laser rangefinder, use it. So if you see something glowing and you're not sure if it's a hog really far away or if it's potentially a rabbit that's only 40 yards from you, hit it with the laser rangefinder. If it's 40 yards away and it's that small, it's probably not a hog. I point that out because it's very useful. Depth perception gets tricky with these things. Now, if you're like me and you've been doing this for over a decade and you're used to animal activity and movement, then a lot of times I end up not needing laser rangefinders personally, because I'm looking for how those glowing pixels are actually moving, because I know that hogs have a little bit more sporadic movement than deer slowly making their way across the field. But it's still useful to confirm what you're looking at, depth perception, all that. So the LRF version of this scope has that covered. And I just want to point that out, some insights from someone that has been doing thermal hunting for a very long time. Something to consider when you're looking up thermal optics that may be right for you. Now, the next feature set that I feel like is worth highlighting up front is actually the removable external battery. So on the right turret cap, it comes off and you have an external battery that's basically like an 18650 size cell, and it comes with 2 of these spares. Now, this isn't the only thing powering the optic. You have an onboard battery as well, which is pretty cool because you can run it without these, leave these in your pocket just in case you think you may need some more juice later. Me personally, I went ahead and threw one in, and I got between 8 and 10 hours with the internal and this combined. Your mileage may vary. It really depends on the screen brightness. So did you start using it during the day or was it exclusively at night? But it comes with 2 and it will get you through the night. You throw it on the charging rack in the morning, charge the scope. You can also charge these batteries while they're in the scope, which is cool. So again, very modular, very useful. I appreciated that quite a bit, and I never had to worry about battery life. It seemed pretty efficient for all the processing power this thing has on board and the laser rangefinder function, etc. Now, you can take pictures and videos, which you're going to see plenty of those throughout this video, but it's pretty intuitive in terms of controlling it. A long press records, a short press snaps a quick photo. So all in all, really enjoyed this optic so far, and now I'm going to go ahead and get into kind of the different feature sets, show you how you control it, the menu system, all that. If you are someone interested in learning more about this optic, then continue to go down this rabbit hole with me. Okay, so doing a quick unboxing for you so you know what is included in this impressive package. So when you open the main box, you are greeted by a pretty nice carrying case, as you can see there, which is always appreciated. And then there is a lot of things included here. So that's why I wanted to take the time to show you what exactly is included. So there's going to be the optic itself. We will come back to that, of course. You have an eye cup, not 1, but 2 spare external batteries. You do get a set of scope rings included, various cables, one for the scope to computer, I'm assuming, and the other for the included charger. A nice charger for the 2 included batteries. You do get a power brick for the charger, but depending on what country you might be in, you also get a variety of adapters for different plugs across the world. There is a strap included for the carrying case for what it's worth, and a pretty hefty user manual. And here is the optic. So initial impression, it feels to be made very, very well. It is definitely not a lightweight optic, but there's a lot of technology packed into this. Okay, so I want to briefly show you the user interface so that you kind of know how simple and intuitive this optic is to use. So starting from front to rear, you do have a built-in lens protector, and then you focus the optic by rotating the objective lens ring here. So pretty standard stuff. It's nice and stiff. It's not going to move on accident. You actually have to use a pretty decent amount of force, as you can probably tell there. Now, next is going to be a button on the rear of the laser rangefinder. A quick press is just a single measurement. I believe a long press is going to give you continuous, and then you press again, it'll turn it off. So different options there depending if you want it continuously ranging and spitting out information, or if you just need it as needed, right? So moving our way back, this is kind of your heart and soul right here. This is the menu interface. So a short press gives you your quick access menu, and a long press is going to get you into the more detailed menu options. Right hand side, this is actually not a controller. It's going to be the battery housing for your removable external batteries. So just a threaded connection there. But the other side is actually how you zoom in and zoom out. And it's very responsive. So some digital optics take a year to just keep zooming slowly, slowly, slowly. This one you rotate and it just takes away on, or takes off on you, which is awesome because things happen fast when you're hunting. So I actually like how quickly it zooms in, how responsive it is. Working our way back, you have your power button. So you press and hold to turn it on. A quick tap is actually going to do a nuke function to kind of recalibrate the sensor to your environment. It will auto nuke just like most thermal scopes, but that is how you would manually nuke it as well. And then your camera button, so a long press starts recording. It's very clear when it's recording through the optic, and then a short press snaps a quick photo. And of course, your rear diopter is adjustable to your eyesight. So pretty basic stuff there. But last but not least is where you're actually gonna charge it. So you have a USB Type-C port here. The cool thing is when you have these external batteries in it, you can charge them through the optic. So it's gonna prioritize the internal battery. When that's full, it'll then start charging your external. So you don't have to remove it every time. You'd be just fine leaving it in the optic if you don't want to use that external charger. But the next thing that's kind of interesting is actually an HDMI connection. So you know, sky's kind of the limit in terms of what you want to do with that. Let's say you are hunting with friends in a blind and you want to mount a TV or something, or have a field monitor. You could see what people are looking at. Also, if you're taking someone who's inexperienced hunting, you can also watch what they're doing. Now this scope does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth with some app support, so you can stream stuff too, I'm assuming. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I didn't mess with the app on this one. I've been too busy just being behind the optic and having a good time doing it, but I do believe it does offer that support, as do most current smart optics. Okay, so I want to just kind of briefly walk you through the menu. We'll first start with what I call the quick access, which is just the short press, pressing the top menu button. Here, the first option is going to be to decide where you want the picture-in-picture. So I have it set to upper middle. You can do left, right, etc. Screen brightness is going to be a big one. If you tap again on these options, it lets you kind of play with them. So not that you're noticing the screen brightness change, but that's going to be pretty important, especially when you go from daytime to nighttime. Now hot track, I'll show you, and we can probably already guess what's going to be the warmest thing in the image, but this will track the warmest thing for you. So currently it is the power adapter for one of my studio lights. So no brainer there. So if you want it to automatically tell you what the warmest thing is, maybe there's an animal or something and you wouldn't have otherwise noticed it yourself, that's what that is there for. Now there are energy saving modes. I have not personally played with that because I've actually been pretty satisfied with the performance of the battery life on this optic. So you can do a range assist zeroing. So there's different inputs, and I'll show you in the longer menu, where you can zero for different distances, and then it's actually going to help you with ballistic calculation, I believe, based on where you have your zero set and the instantaneous range of the laser rangefinder. So pretty cool. I have my zeroing distance set to 100 currently, which was that last option. Now I'm gonna go ahead and long press the menu, and we're gonna get into more of the details. So without getting into the weeds here, there are ways you can play around with optimizing all your different thermal profiles. So I've left mine on nature, but you can play with brightness, contrast, etc. So you can optimize it to what looks best to your eye, which is always a useful feature. So under your reticle settings, the first thing is going to be model configuration. Now what I'm assuming this is for, and it goes all the way to J, is you can have different profiles. So would you have a quick detach mount? Here's all the digital zero profiles you could save with your custom configurations as well. Now in terms of reticle type, you have a lot of options here as well, which is always cool. I will say that these with the really small aiming dot in the center is very, very small, and I have some family member that has a little bit of difficulty seeing some of those, so I just kind of left it on something that I thought that they would pick up to their eye just a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back. Now you can change the color. Red to me pops very well, regardless of the thermal profile that I'm on. So that's where I had it. And then you can even adjust your brightness, which again is useful. So I'm gonna actually probably turn it up higher than what I had it. But there you go, options there. Now zeroing, here's where you can put all your different distances. And I'm assuming that if the scope knows what you're ranging, it's going to change to that 0 distance. Sorry. So some modularity there as well. We'll get into zeroing here in a bit. This is your Wi-Fi. So if you want to turn it on and play with the app and streaming, you can do that. Here's all your recording settings. Now I turn the watermarks off. It will come out of the box with them on. I just think it's less busy without the watermarks. Here is your power settings, so ways you can help save some of that battery life and tell it if you want it to automatically turn off or not, etc. So once again, you can optimize the scope for how you want to use it. Here's your date and time and all that. You can see that I have not done anything with that because it doesn't matter that much to me. And here is your settings for Bluetooth, laser rangefinder, and your zeroing assistance. Now, one thing you saw me do just a second ago on accident is how you change your color profiles is by simply just rotating that top turret. That is how you do that. So I'm just going through really easily. So it's nice, you don't have to go into a menu to do that. And then the zoom, like I said, really, really fast response time. This is about a quick quarter turn, just kind of flicking. And there you go. So pretty intuitive controls. You play around with it for about 10 minutes. I think you'll have the hang of it, which is nice. It's not overly complicated or overly hard to use by any means. Now I do want to shed further insights on the zeroing process. So what I like to do is I will just shoot at a rifle target and I will get a pretty confident group. Now, fortunately on the Guide Sensmart 651 LRF, you can see the hits, which is very, very useful. And I'm gonna show you exactly why that is. So when you go into the zeroing menu on the optic, it allows you to do essentially a freeze frame. Now you're going to want to line up your crosshair where you're aiming and then you'll activate the freeze. And then all you simply do from there is drag and drop a cursor to where those impacts are going. As you can see, I've frozen onto the area where I was aiming. I'm going to pan down and make an adjustment on the X-axis, seeing as my elevation looked pretty good. And I'm just gonna drag and drop my crosshair to where I want it to go. From there, you'll just save your changes and exit out of the menu. Make sure you hit confirm, otherwise it's not gonna save. You'll notice the coordinates have been updated on the menu screen. And so now the next step is just see if those impacts go where you're hoping they will. And the scope is pretty user-friendly and it worked. Now I take it a step further and I like to shoot at things like this little 6-inch target at 200 yards to further confirm that I am good to go. Now, depending on the distance you zero, it's gonna affect your elevation. So giving you just a little bit more sample footage here. For the most part, I am going to just stop talking and let you draw your own conclusions, but I do want to point out that there is a series of 3 modes. Nature being kind of the default mode, there is also an enhancement mode, which essentially just seems to turn up the gain on the thermal sensor. And then there is the highlight mode, which is going to basically drop the contrast of your environment and really make the hot spots in your environment pop. So I'm going to annotate the distances and the mode of the sample footage that I have collected for you, in addition to what you've seen overlaid in the rest of this video, for you to kind of draw your own conclusions and make your own decisions on. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that there are so many different settings you could tweak, such as the contrast or the brightness of the image, that it's gonna make so many combinations. This video would be 3 hours long. So just keep in mind that the image is customizable and maybe even optimizable beyond what I'm showing you in this video. Okay guys, I think that's probably about it for the Guide Sensmart TU651. Phenomenal optic. Admittedly, sometimes when I get sent things, I don't always have plans to retain them. I loan them to friends, etc. But when it comes to this optic, yeah, I'm keeping this for myself. I really liked this scope. I'm gonna use it a lot more, and it really honestly punches outside of its weight class in terms of the price point it comes in at compared to other options that are substantially more expensive on the market. This may quite literally be one of my favorite thermal scopes in my collection, and I've used probably 10 different thermal scopes. I really like this one. Can't stress that enough. If you're looking into thermal scopes, I recommend you don't sleep on this one. Definitely worth looking into. So another big thank you to the channel sponsors, Warhammer Armaments and Optics Planet. Without them, I couldn't put together videos like this, plain and simple guys. So big thanks to them. And I also want to thank you guys for taking the time to stop by and watch this video. And as always guys, have a good one.